The usual Western model is widely rejected today, but it remains basic, not as an assertion, but because it inheres in the structure of most concepts and seems to be the only way to make new concepts. Probably one of the top 5 most powerful parts of this entire book for me is right there.
I love that, yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of tired. How are you?
I feel pretty stimulated. I can feel my brain feeling a little less sharp, soupy. But yeah, I still feel pretty zoned.
But this next section is great to me because this was the first work of philosophy that I seriously engaged in as a serious intention that I want to read this. And the way that Gendlin sprinkles and brings in pedagogy is fantastic to me. And that's what this subsection gets into. And it's the first read of this, I, of course, didn't have all the background context that, we're able to spin up as we're reading this together. And so when I got to this subsection, it was I was feeling a lot reading this stuff. I was definitely having insights, but getting to this place felt so exciting and enlivening to me because I loved just being kind of let into the thought process of a philosopher. I loved being let into oh, this is metacognizing what's happening. This is you explaining to me the purpose of what we're doing from your point of view. And it's literally called Some Motivations and Powers of the Model so far. So I'm really excited to hear this again. I'm now laying down and in chill zone mode. Joey, do you want to broach us in and feel free to just spitball at any point. Take it loose here.
Okay. Some motivations and the powers of the model so far. Into our subsection. First paragraph, when I say that a missing, an implied, an aspect has a role, a function, a meaning, that it has the role of a symbol to the body, my too early use of these terms is deliberate.
I love that. It's deliberate, Gendlin?
The too early use is part of the project to create an alternative model in which we define living bodies in such a way that one of them can be ours. We start from how we feel. We start from how we know. Parentheses, feel, are, ... close parentheses. Our own more complex body. We start from how we know, feel, are our own more complex body. From the start, let us develop concepts of body and environment that can apply also to our own bodies. Since our human bodies have environments including species, members, and other objects, meanings, and symbols, we know that living bodies can have objects, meanings, and symbols.
Right. And so he says exactly what you'd expect then. So let us therefore not build the basic terms in our model in a way that makes our own bodies seem impossible from the start. Yeah, that feels great. It's almost something tell me if this sounds right to you, Joey. Okay, so on the one hand, we want to have some basics here, start primitive, because we're trying to understand organisms, period. So we need to go back pretty far to understand organisms. And on the other hand, we know that organisms arrived to something that has symbol and meaning and is us, and we're living it. So if we want to explain that, we need to start with what we already know. From the start, let us develop concepts of body and environment that can apply also to our own bodies. So somehow he's playing both sides in a beautiful way. Let's start with the richness while at the same time trying to work at the very basics. It's a really, oh man, so interesting. Because if we lose either, then how can we do the whole trajectory in earnest? Almost to say. I'll continue. Paragraph 2 of this subsection on page 17. Since we humans are here, we can be certain that we are not impossible. Beautiful. Take that, Descartes. A conceptual that has nothing to do with Descartes. Marker, cut that. A conceptual model of, quote, reality that makes us seem impossible has to have something wrong with it. Take that, science. Take that, other philosophers. Take that, the world. That's great. How obvious. A conceptual model of, quote, reality that makes us, with all the things we know we have, it seem impossible, has to have something wrong with it. Thank God for Gendlin. Paragraph 3. Hit it, Joey.
Human meanings and symbols seem impossible in the spectator's space and time within which we have been taught to think about anything. Therefore, currently, the human world seems to float disconnectedly. Human meanings seem added on to a reality that makes us seem unreal.
Yeah, that's so good. Anything for you, Joey, or is this just a my type of paragraph right now? Let's just keep going. I'll cut that so you're not found out. Here we go. Here's the P word. Let's do it. Should I take that? Is that you? I forget. Do I get
You.
postmodernists? Oh, shit. Postmodernists, want to reject any conceptual model. Oh, those bad, bad people. I call the rudimentary outlines of a model basic, not because someone believes that a conceptual model is the foundation of anything. Okay, so hold on a sec. That's great, because I sometimes believe that a conceptual model is the foundation of things. I've done a little bit too much axiomatic math to have like in me this like potency and power of starting with the basics, bringing it to the roots, taking it to the core, and being like, oh, how can I understand how the world works? Well, what's the simplest place to start? What's the simplest possible simple thing? And let's start from there. And Gendlin's saying, it's like, that's not how anything works. Come on. Like, are you stupid? Yes, I've been stupid. I've been so stupid. So we call the model basic, not because someone believes, I believed, sorry, that a conceptual model is the foundation of anything, but because the basic structure, is acquired by all the other terms. The usual Western model is widely rejected today, but it remains basic not as an assertion, but because it inheres in the structure of most concepts.
Boom.
And seems to be the only way to make new concepts. Probably one of the top 5 most powerful parts of this entire book for me is right
I
there.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I keep coming back to that time and time again. The use of the word inheres, which is, by the way, just an absolutely fucked up good word, period. And so good. And anyways, I don't need to go on about that unless you want to go on about that. I'll finish the paragraph and pause in the glory of all this. So this will remain. I'll backtrack just to get that felt context. But because it inheres in the structure of most concepts, and seems to be the only way to make new concepts powerful, this will remain so as long as we lack an alternative basic model. By rejecting all models, the postmodernists make themselves right. Love that. I love that, because this deconstructive attitude has this power to it. What fucking blows my mind with Gendlin when every time I remember this stuff is that he genuinely, for me, makes an earnest alternative to what it is to basically say that all concepts lead to Rome, where Rome is being completely wrong. Like any conceptual model falls into contradiction. There's no way to make it work. And so by rejecting all models, the postmodernists make themselves right. Like, yeah, but is there an alternative? Yes, there is. Gendlin does it. It's amazing. But a model ceases to entrap as soon as we have an equally, quote, basic alternative. Then we are able to devise concepts beyond the old model and beyond the new one too. Absolute aces. Like it's basically, for me, a way of saying, rather than rejecting all models, we can believe our models in as much as we recognize that we can make two of them. Therefore, therefore, we start seeing faults in one. We can start thinking beyond each by comparing them. It shows us the limits of thinking while not denying thinking. I've just taken so much from this paragraph before, but yeah, I love that. I think we should continue, but if you have thoughts, feel free to pause. Otherwise, feel free to press on into the good charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hang out with the phrase or with the, but because it adheres in the structure of most concepts and seems to be the only way to make new concepts. And something about that, like, oh yeah, we widely reject it. Nevertheless, it's still here because we haven't even offered ourselves an alternative base to create new concepts from. So we're,
Exactly.
even if we reject the base, we're still using all the concepts that assume it. And it kind of just means that we're like using words that we just feel like, well, we know this
Right.
isn't really the case.
Right.
But I'm trying to talk, so I'm gonna do it.
Dude, exactly. And the fucking emptiness that gives is like quintessential to like the postmodern affect of like, yeah. It's like I've been there and it's like, and that's dumb and that's bullshit and we know that and we get it, but I have to use terms, so we might as well fuck it up this way.
Yeah. I find there to be like a sincerity of like, let's try a different base model that would allow us to use words and actually kind of like feel resonant with them.
Great. And actually feel resonant with them because focusing breaks postmodernism. Like a word can mean something.
We can devise an alternative. Moving on to the second paragraph. We can devise an alternative if we fashion the basic terms from the living bodies that we have. A word does mean something when we're focusing. We fashion the basic terms from the living bodies that we have. Are, act from, speak from, ... With basic parameters that are two early versions of human processes, we can make the later definitions of meaning and symbol possible. We won't darkly announce later on that humans have a symboling power, as is usually done in the currently disconnected social sciences. We want to understand that power and its continuity with less than human processes.
I love can I pause you there? I just love the darkly announced. It's kind of like this thing of like, so, here's our science models, here's this and that, and there's no living flowing from that. And then like into that, and then we announce, and did you know humans have a symboling power? Like on top of on top of our physiology and blood circulation and the way that we can talk to other species members, we have this thing called a symboling power. I don't know what I'm saying. I just love the darkly announce, like as this like divorced, because the whole point of what he's doing is that he's implicitly saying our symboling power just gets assumed as such, shoehorned in, unmotivated beyond the fact that we know we have it, because we're used to making models be intrinsically unmotivated models in their attempt to be basic and real. That is to say, wrong, which the postmodernists already agree to. But Gendlin is like, how about I be right by claiming something, though, rather than claiming nothing? I think we want to understand is the place you're on.
Yeah. We want to understand that power and its continuity with less than human processes. So it's not just brought in post facto. Whoops. We are not pretending to be without and before language. Of course, we are devising concepts from some aspects of how we are and live. The usual mathematical reality is also derived from human processes. Of course. Nothing is more exclusively human than mathematics.
So good. That's why Gendlin doesn't like using math. He owes so much to Whitehead. But Whitehead is an absolute based mathematician and uses math as part of his models. And Gendlin, I almost want to say, I'm going to say this sloppily, but in a way that feels really earnest. Animals don't have a felt sense for mathematics, but we have a felt sense for things that animals have. So we shouldn't use mathematics to try to understand animals because that's our stuff. Like math is beautiful. It gives us a felt sense of things. It gives us a way, and it's so human. If we want to understand animals, let's start from how it feels to be hungry. Let's start from concepts that like have a through line to them.
You got next one?
Go ahead, take it, Joey.
Paragraph 3, page 18. We can speak from living, and we make rudimentary concepts from speaking from, and especially from focusing, and from the process of explication. Since these are possible in reality, they can lead us to an alternative set of basic concepts of a reality in which we would not seem impossible. I love the idea that it would be radical to do this and like
Yes.
the absolutely necessary
Yes.
reminder towards certain systems of thought. Like, hey, you might try this thing out
Yes.
before you render us impossible to actually
Yes.
build it from.
Yes.
He's got from focusing here, speaking
Yes.
from living.
No, it is shocking. You didn't say shocking, but it is kind of, there's a kind of shocking quality that this still needs to be said, and this was written, the near final version of this was already here in the 90s, and this still needs to be said so much. And we have people like Varela and Evan Thompson, and we have some good folks who are fighting the good fight, and yet it still needs to be said so much. So much. Yeah. We can speak from living. Key phrase for me is, and we can make rudimentary concepts from speaking from, like the place from which we are speaking from, and especially from focusing, and from the process of explication, since these are possible in reality. I love that. So we go into these concepts themselves and we go into these to make our concepts from them. Why is this meaningful? Because they're possible for reality as human powers. Yeah. Continuing. And in my felt sense, I just want to say I still have so much to learn about all this. I can still feel that too. I still have so much to learn about all this, but there's like a ringing of like clarity and truth when I hear it too. That's this like maybe invitation of what like I'm recognizing the object. I have all this goddamn fucking accumulated stoppage, and Gendlin's sounding this bell. He's proposing his mission. He's saying why he's doing this, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, I need that. I need more of that. I have more to learn, and at the same time, I already agree, and I need to agree more. I need to replace every bit of stoppage in me about this. Our rudimentary model will develop, this is paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. Our rudimentary, page 18, model will develop into a connected matrix of concepts, hell yeah, with which we can derive human behavior and symboling. He scare quote derive there, fair enough. Human behavior and symboling. That's really cool. Next paragraph, one sentence on. Then it will have the model, that is, the concepts with which to speak about itself. Chapter 7 and chapter 8. I'm excited. I've already read that stuff and I'm excited.
I've got some popping off margin notes in this next paragraph.
For you? Oh, heck yeah. Do you want me to read it and then you can pop in? Just say stuff while I'm reading. Try it out. Try interrupting. It is known that symbols and rituals have deep bodily effects.
Nietzsche,
True.
Bataille.
Bataille. But there is no way to think how that can be. We are building a way to think from and into those effects. And of course, we spend much of our lives speaking. The old notion that symbols, quote, stand for something, never opened this relation. It is left like an external relation. What lets symbols be about things? Yes, I was saying this earlier because Gendlin's got me all linguistics pilled. Like, we are told about signifiers and signified, but the signifiers float. The old terms about language and signifying do not internally explain themselves, nor do they relate to living bodies. And that's the crux of it. And that's why it's like his version of object already feels so much more advanced than these theories that have so much like good thinking going into them, but they float. Like to whom do they speak to? What living body are these relevance to? Like, and then Gendlin introduces his concept of the object, this too early form of a symbol, and it's just like, oh my god. And that changed so much of my thinking for a while, and it still does. Like, but it was very explicit for a while where I started realizing like, oh, like a symbol is like a way of bringing to mind the felt sense of the implying that an object has. Like
Nice.
like what is one way to understand what language is doing, and it's kind of like a little magic trick to like re-imply my body. Re-imply it how? Re-imply it relevantly to what an object does for me, which is experienced bodily. Why is it experienced bodily? Because I'm living and I live with the so-called objects. They are part of my field. It's like so much more clarity comes from that. It grounds it rather than letting these signifiers and signified float into this ethereal unreality. It grounds it into why we even would ever have a symbol. It makes it existential. It makes it purposeful. It's brilliant, and it feels so obvious after the fact. And to say that it feels so obvious after the fact is another way of saying like what it's like for a process to be resumed. It feels like you've entered the kingdom of heaven. It feels like there's just like some relief, and it's like, oh, finally, there's a real generative, beautiful, bodily felt like just positivity to it. And I think about the kind of nihilistic suffering that I was enduring when I didn't have concepts like these, or some of the ways that McGilchrist approaches things. But Gendlin takes it further because Gendlin reclaims the very act of thinking, which is something that I see McGilchrist still get stumbled a bit with, about the distinctions between the explicit and the implicit. And one can never truly explicate the beauty of the implicit. And it's like Gendlin goes further and says, yes, you can, because you carry the implicit with you, and your explications can remember that it's there. And so you can stay in concert with that. And it's just like, oh my God, waves of relief, waves of liberation. Like, thank you. Like, the stoppage was implying something. It wasn't implying Gendlin. Well, because it's never what occurs is never what exactly what was implied. But when what occurs meets the implying in some way, like then the implying can go on. It can drop its stoppage baggage and move forward. And Gendlin is that for me. All right, that's my laying down on the couch on my back, philosophizing into the air feelings right now. I guess I should continue reading. Do you want to jam in some more margin notes before I do, Joey, or the marginalia of your own mind?
And something for me when I read like symbols and rituals have deep bodily effects.
Yeah, yeah. Something
We're
for you
building a
about
way
that.
to think from and into those effects. And I'd had like Nietzsche and Bataille in the margins, because I know they talk about like writing and communication. I think kind of within this line of thought, that they don't float. And even like the way Nietzsche writes, like it kind of has this like poetic quality about it that seems to kind of like come with an affective tone.
I like that.
And
Right.
that was some of my early exposure to like that writing style, that felt like, oh, I'm like moved by this. And how that kind of felt like to read and engage with language and let it move me feels
Yes.
entirely different.
Yes.
And, having no context for like a therapeutic focusing process, but still feeling like this is doing something that other language use doesn't. And then to become interested about how like my own language use either does that for myself or other people.
I love that.
And I can't remember who, where, but how much this is in Nietzsche, how much of it is in Bataille, but they do talk about like early forms of writing or ritual were mostly about how to like inscribe a memory in the body, even to the point of saying like brandings and tattoos, even if they weren't like words, but like a symbol branded into somebody's body then serves to kind of like program a memory into them. And the way in which like that would be done in a kind of ritualistic manner that kind of almost like infuses a certain behavior or meaning into like how this person relates to themselves.
That's a good ass embodied symbol right there. Definition.
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah, quite literally.
But something in the way in which they try to talk about how our technology of writing derives out of that as like a more primitive form
That's
of
good.
language and symbol
That's
using
good.
that was actually like branded into the body to kind of like evoke a certain behavior or a certain way. Again, I guess, again, like relating to a group or another person.
Right. It's as if this day and age, we need to do that to people so they can remember that language is embodied.
Yeah. And I mean, like Bataille has these provocative things where he's just like, communication is violence. Like when we use language, we are like doing violence to either ourselves or other people. You know, I think that's maybe a provocative way of saying like, if I
Bataille?
communicate,
Provocative?
if I communicate, then it's, you know, I'm trying to make an effect on somebody. I'm trying to like change something or somebody.
Interesting.
And that can be like a violent process.
Interesting.
And that, you know, kind of feels like yeah, a maybe like provocative, shadowy, negative idea to the idea that like my words don't float, my signifiers don't float.
Right, but there's this embodied violence that they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And in chapter 7 is when we're going to get the more American pragmatists analytical lineage of like situations and actions in which language does this is like where performative utterances come out of the just the idea that like language use literally does change situations. Is one way we're going to get into that. Because we've already got into the embodiment of it from page 1. Like we're already starting with the embodiment. Is there something at the tip of your tongue?
There was just like somewhat along with you're saying, the signifiers floating, the postmodernists, but like one's/my use of irony at certain times that kind of comes out of the idea of like, I reject this underlying model, but I'm still using concepts that are coming out of it. And just this kind of sense of
Good.
cynicism or hopelessness I have that like the language I'm using doesn't matter. And to kind of feel like, well, what if the language I'm using does matter? And
interesting.
To allow it to potentially come out of a different model that does involve a like coming out of deep bodily effects.
Exactly. We even call them empty utterances, for example, like empty words, like nothing said, even nothing. You're right. It's logically contradictory, but but it touches the felt sense. Oh, so much was uttered, but nothing was said. Versus the full-bodied experiencing, the embodiment of language. That language might be able to mean something. That we might be able to have a basic model where we can exist, for example, where life as we know it is referred to in some real way. I'm just going to bounce right in where I left off. This is the last paragraph of page 18. So it is like an external relation. What lets symbols be about things? We are told about signifiers and the signified, but the signifiers float. The old terms about language and signifying do not internally explain themselves. That's good. They do not internally explain themselves, nor do they relate to living bodies. Even our little primitive model with its few terms is already further along than the usual model, with body and environment making up one event, and with the concept of implying, the body implies its participating environments. I love the hyphenation there. Just that happens because of the page thing. And comma environments. It's page 19 now. As well as special objects that can be missing and can resume a process.
Noise. Riffed enough into that, so next paragraph.
Hit it.
What makes something a symbol is usually said to be that it stands for something. Our definition so far is not yet of a symbol, also not yet of an object that is present and perceived by a body. So far, the object disappears as soon as it recurs, and yet it already stands for something.
Bingo.
Namely, the process it resumes when it recurs.
I gotta just jump in there. he's not gloating. He's just being descriptive. But I want to gloat for Gendlin, like his little primitive model, because the point it already stands for something with its too early for symbol aspect. And that's an invitation. Like, I'm not a philosopher. Or like in the societal sense of that, I'm not. In some sense of it, I am, and I want to continue to be, and refine. And we're all philosophers. But I don't do this for a living. I don't do this for a job. I'm not a professor. Part of me wants to just enjoy imagining that if I'm like feeling dead and stuck at my job, this like little invitation here of like, one, you can create a model. And Gendlin's whole thinking at the edge and like is part of what he'll refer to later as theory construction in this book. Gendlin gives us ways of like theorizing from our experience. And then two, not only can you theorize, you can theorize in something that immediately bears itself to life as we actually know it. And if you've gotten lost not doing that, here's a way how. And again, with all that discussion about here's how language works, here's how signifiers and signified relate to each other, which I'm woefully understudied about, but I have some exposure to, and I've spent some time learning. It does astound me, like the simplicity of how, again, even already, yet it already stands for something, namely the process it resumes when it recurs. And we have a felt experience of what a process is like. It's intricate. It has so much meaning to it. We know what hunger feels like. Now, all of a sudden, in this model, the missing food, we know what it stands for. It's so immediately embodied. It just blows my mind, the elegance and simplicity of that like demonstration of how one can construct a theory that doesn't float. It's like mind-boggling to me that we do. It's so mind-boggling to me that we do. Thank you, Gendlin. If I ever make a theory, I owe it to you, buddy. And so stands for comes from the old model. So yet it already stands for something, namely the process it resumes when it recurs, but stands for comes from the old model. As if symboling were an external relation, and then I'm just going to add, rather than an internal relation between these things that are actually originally not separated, right? So continuing the reading, I say instead that the body implies the object by implying the process which the object resumes. The object implies the process which it resumes. The body implies the object for which it is missing. Now we have an internal relation. Now we have a felt sense relation.
Nice.
Now we have a focusing relation.
Yeah, that's helpful for me. I was kind of just like, what's he getting at with the stands for stuff?
Yeah.
But I'm picking it up now as it is used in comparison to implies and this kind of external versus internal, as opposed to like a kind of arbitrary assignment.
Signpost. Yeah, assignment, signpost. Yeah, like just this thing that stands there, points in a direction. It's like, that's external.
What should we call that? I don't
know. Kill it, Joey. I'll probably interrupt you as hell, but like, kill it. Page 19, let's go.
Third paragraph?
Yeah.
Second full?
Yeah.
Our rudimentary model can already say quite a lot that needs to be said and cannot be said in the old model. We also have terms to say that an object, and later a symbol, involves a whole implicit complexity, even though it can look so simple and single.
I love that. Yeah, that's so good.
And I don't know why, like, and yeah, speaking freshly, like, there's something about seeing him pair symbol and object together right here and now in this chapter feels really fresh and alive for me. In a way that, like, maybe I already have like a fetishization of like the symbol of symbol. But to hold it next to object in this context of the object being this like thing that's differentiated out of a stopped process, and how a kind of symbol can be these same things that we might be using on just like a much more complex level, just feels really exciting for me. So later a symbol involving a whole implicit complexity, even though it can look so simple and single. Yeah, I love that.
Me too.
Like the missing in aspect, like the missing N aspect, the effect of a symbol cannot be accounted for by examining it alone. Boom. Our rudimentary model provides a way to think these dimensions without assuming representations.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's such a good, by the way, definition of representation implicitly. It's like, again, I'm just going to come back to the example because it's so visceral of like, I'm hungry. Food is an object that implies the continuation of the stopped process that hunger is right now implying. The hunger is right now implying. It doesn't, it's like to say it represents hunger is a much later development where we're like in the spectator's point of view looking at a dude. It's like now telling a story. It's removed from it. But from my experience, it doesn't represent hunger. It is my hunger. And it is the furthering of my hunger in a different sense of furthering into satiation. And that's purely visceral. It's not representational. It's literal. It's embodied. It's known. And then now we enter the symbolic era, so to speak. It's the 7 world, chapter 7, once we get to it, where I can look at a menu and we can say, oh, it represents the burger and I don't know what it will be, right? But that representation occurs into that felt experience of the viscerality, not just of knowing that I'm hungry, but knowing what it's like to not be hungry too. And knowing, yeah. So yeah, it's just such a really, man, I'll just read that sentence before giving it back to you. Like, our rudimentary model provides a way to think these dimensions without assuming representations, such that representations can come later and exist, but we recognize that it's not the ground. And they're not the floating signifiers. Yeah, they're that we can see how these relations can all emerge from the grounded signified, to put it in those terms.
I'm sitting a lot more too with those sentences right before. The whole implicit complexity.
The whole implicit complexity.
Effect of a symbol cannot be accounted for by examining it alone. So I think in one sense, my mind jumps to like this like kind of historical genealogy one might do for a concept in terms of like looking at it across time, how it's been used, and in a way in which that can be like an admirable complexity and yet potentially still very distinct from the life process it implies for me, like in my body right here and now. How a symbol might kind of like imply that, as opposed to on a very rote level, a definition, but even on a, at least for me, philosophically interesting level, still like a kind of historical history, genealogy.
So just, I don't want to interrupt you but I'll ask something about that. Is now a good time or should I wait?
Yeah.
So are you distinguishing the concept as it kind of just comes to me as I feel it when I encounter it, and also versus like the lineage that concept comes from?
Yes.
And how, yeah. And there's an interesting thing I want to say, to use the earlier chapter 2 and now 3 too, which is like the idea that prior articulations of a concept are occurrings that occurred as it implied, almost like they satiate different aspects of the concept. And so when you read them and you read the lineage, there's like a way where you're like, oh, the concept I have always was that on some level, or it becomes new and fresh. But there's like sometimes where it's like in the concept is already its historical lineage, but in a maybe non-spatiotemporal sense of in there, because when you read the other ones, there's somehow this through line and this total clarity that can sometimes be there. But how did that manifest more for you to like speak further, to speak from?
I'm having more thoughts. I'm not sure how to answer that question.
Just go with your more thoughts. Yeah.
Something about occurrences in the lineage carrying forward or changing some implying.
Dude, we made it almost the entire fucking chapter without saying that. Come on, Joey. Get the fuck out of here. dude. Sorry, continue.
Last paragraphs. Something about changing the implying that occurrences of a symbol concept would have done at different times in history. I think like when I was initially reading those sentences just now, it flashed in my head of like, I don't know, this might be like broadening out too far, but something about like processes beyond my individual life, beyond my organism's life, but that occur on like kind of like social, historical levels, cultural levels.
Interesting. Right.
And the ways that like certain symbols, concepts, words, ideas have been objects or kind of plugged back in, changed those implyings. And even like there's something about him being like, we'll too soon to introduce like recognition, for instance. We don't really know what that means, but like I'm just gonna kind of hint at that. And the way in which like in my own life I might learn about an idea having no clue about the process for myself that it would answer, it would imply. And now it's like, wow, I learned about this
Oh, okay.
wacky concept that I
Good.
have like no use for, but people tell me it's cool and important and interesting and fascinating, and so I'm going to go around and use it. And only until my own life process encounters like stuckness in a way that implies it, I'm just like, oh,
Good.
now that becomes interesting to
It
me.
became relevant right then and there. Now that
Yes.
becomes interesting to you.
And so like something about him doing it maybe strategically in this book where like he kind of references these things and it's like, we don't quite see how these are relevant, but
Yes.
you know, these might be on a kind of floaty way for now, things that you're like, well, surely we should get to these. In my own experience, maybe being taught or told about things that I should know about before they're implied by my life process and feeling like they're empty until
Good.
something shifts.
And that's also a good way of describing, I mean, he has a whole essay about it. I forget the name. It's amazing. Therapy that doesn't quite land in the moment. Therapeutic interventions that
Nice.
like, oh, I didn't need that right now. Or like, I don't see how that fits in. Or like, okay, I'm trying to understand. Could you explain that better? Because it's nothing about it is hitting the felt sense. None of it is like obviously touching the missing objects, those N2 aspects that aren't there right now for you. And you're, yeah.
But I guess I like think about like certain even like values. But like an idea comes to mind, like integrity, for instance, or like courage. Like at one point in my life, I would hear these words and be like, I don't care about like what that word means, like little to nothing to me. Courage, it just might have felt like a silly kind of courage the cowardly dog, like courage of a lion, just like it's like, but it felt abstract and unrelevant. And then like now it's like certain values or qualities feel like, oh, those present to me as like practices that answer certain stoppages in my life.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how like concepts that we learn and quote in a spectator sense understand are actually stoppages until they become relevant to my process.
That's fascinating. Yes. It's almost like reverse it. Yeah. My learning about that idea is now just a stopped process that has no object. The object being like potentially my own life process that is going to imply it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Kill it, Joey. Let's.
Okay, I'll reread. Our rudimentary model provides a way to think these dimensions without assuming representations. The body does not imply the object by having some kind of copy of it.
Non-iconic.
Nothing in the implying or the body's process looks like the object.
Bam.
Secondly, the implying of the object is not a reference, as in the old model. What is really implied is a further body process, not just the object. Explication is never representation, always itself a further process.
Okay, I don't know about that last shit because I'm somewhere else right now. I stopped earlier. Dude, he's smuggled in The non-iconic, the non-representational. I see now. You're clowning on the signifier signified so early. It doesn't look like it. It's not the same. Yet it implies it. They're non-iconic. Okay.
I feel like I use that now to just remind myself when I see representation, like pair it with iconic.
I just didn't take it in the sense of like language symbols at all at that time. Like I just didn't have that crossing there yet. And then I'm going to reread because I was like thinking over it. Secondly, the implying of the object is not a reference as in the old model. What is really implied, there we go. What is really implied is a further body process, not just the object. And again, that's chapter 2, time. Time is in the process,
Nice.
Functional cycle. It's not this static, goddamn concept that has no movement to it. What is really implied is a further body process. Explication is never representation, always itself a further process.
Yeah, there could be the mistake of thinking that like, well, it's about the concept, you know, like I want to understand this or that symbol. I get the answer and now I have the answer. Now I understand, as opposed to recognizing, well, that understanding really just plugs the gap so that I can change my implying and kind of come back to this peaceful emptiness, contentment, flow, process, living. It's easy for me to think about being excited about grasping an answer as if that was the answer that I'm going to keep returning to. But it's like, once I get the answer,
being excited about grasping the answer as if that's the answer you were
I'm not going to return to the answer. The answer goes away as process then gets to move forward.
And why aren't you returning to the answer again? Just in the terms of what you're laying down?
Something about when my process is no longer stopped, it no longer presents to me as like a relevant object.
You got it. I see what you, yeah, I see. I was just missing. That's how I get that now. Right. And something about that for you.
Something about maybe like attachment, detachment. Like when I sit with it, like I can kind of feel emerging this aspect of like having and keeping an object versus that object no longer being an object because process is not stopped.
There's something in there almost like, again, this is not in the model's terms, but this is like inspired analogously from the model of like, I think the easiest one to use is the Tao Te Ching of the kind of wisdom that like becomes invisible again. It's like all this learning, yeah, all this learning, all this effort, all this acquisition, all these concepts, and then it's just like, nah, I don't know anything. You know, and like, and there's a way where it's like I want to say it enters into the field of the implying, but then it's not separate anymore. It's not this thing to have or own, and so I think maybe that's one criticism of the like the that thinking is not critical from that comes from maybe some of these Eastern schools of thinking. Is just to say, well, it was critical because you spent a lot of time thinking. Now it's not critical to you. The only thing you're missing is that like they're not objects to you anymore. It's like it's just this field of like you answered the questions, your body's at peace, you're good. It's not there though. It's just no longer separate. Like you've resumed all these processes that were kind of like your existential stoppage in life. You're good now. But like the thinking, it's not there, so to speak, but it did its work already. And so now you're free of it.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah. Kill it, Joey. We're almost there.
All right. Later, we will derive terms for cognitive processes, the kind that carry the word of, such as perception of, symbol of, etc., but not by making a fresh start as if humans cannot be part of the world studied by science. But of course, the too early use is not yet how we want to use the words meaning and symbol.
because if we were to use them too early right now, it's important to have them too early because we know we're capable of it. But it's not how we want to use them, because our basic model that's wrong, that everyone rejects, that everyone knows is wrong, still adheres in the word meaning and symbol.
Nice. We
And
got to be careful.
We got to, and once we get the terms from our new basic model, they'll be much closer to how we want to say the word
Nice.
meaning and symbol.
Something about allowing them to merge freshly really lets it land their different set of implications. Versus if I tried to smuggle it in, I would risk bringing in this old model. And that's like I'm thinking just like in the therapy, the non-landed therapeutic intervention or interpretation. It's like maybe I offer it too soon when process isn't ready for it, person's not ready for it. And it's just almost insulting because it might indicate or point at something else. Aspects that I'd still be like, absolutely not. I'm never going there now. Could you concretize that just briefly for me? Like, don't interpret it this way for me. I don't want to. I'll never. What? Like what? Mm-hmm. I mean, he says the too early use is not yet how we want to use the words meaning and symbol.
Okay.
Almost a way in which, like, he's flirting with it. He is like hinting at it.
Yeah.
But something about, I'm just thinking in like the therapeutic context, for somebody to maybe offer an interpretation that for me presents as coming out of left field and uses ideas that I'm allergic to and could be ideas that my process naturally goes towards, but offered to me at such a point when they're presenting as left field.
Yeah.
That I am like,
yeah,
I'm gonna do everything I can to prevent my process from going that direction. You are so wrong. You don't get me. That was just, how could you think that?
That's funny.
It has that. It has the like, oh, my spouse told me I needed to do that. I'm never gonna do that. When they were upset with me.
Yeah, there's something funny about that. And I do feel like this itch in where there's a way it does kind of slot into the concepts we're talking about so far, but I don't quite have it yet. Is there more there for you?
I don't think so.
Interesting chapter. Looks like we'll get another 3-hour recording from it. Yeah. So any closing thoughts?
I have nothing of interest to close with. I thought long and hard about this answer.
Really? I don't have much to say.
Yeah, I think I was just meditating on the comicality of my uninteresting thought for you to return to.
Oh, like you actually don't have anything to say?
Yeah, I don't have any interesting thoughts to say. You have anything?
No. The next chapter 4, is when the book gets hard and stays hard, and the only time it'll get easy again is the first half of chapter 8. And there's pages in chapter 4 that I have spent so many hours just sitting in front of that same page, reading it over and over throughout the entire time I've read the entirety of a process model. I would come back to a couple pages in chapter 4 and read it and reread it and reread it. So I'm curious how our format will be once we start getting into the rest of the book, because I don't think it's going to be as brutal at all as it was before, but the intricacy ups and it certainly gets spicier, and like I'm excited. I don't know. Chapter 4 is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I fucking love it.
I'm excited for that too.
Yeah. Well, this was fun. This was long. This was definitely exciting and interesting. And yeah, I feel satiated. I'm ready to wrap.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, well, thank you for this round of things, Joey.
Absolutely, Nicholas.
All right, till next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, listeners, for listening in.
Thank you. Thank you.